Okay, before we get started, I'll just do like a really quick intro. Thanks everyone for joining us for the Founders Entrepreneurship Workshop. My name is Shrestha and I'm part of HackIllinois staff. So halfway through the workshop, I'll send the event code in the chat so that everyone can redeem points for attending. Yeah, that's all from me, and I'll let them take it from here.
Cool. Should we do intros before presenting? I think that seems appropriate. What's up, guys? My name is Davis. I'm the R&D team lead at Founders, and yeah, super excited to be here with you guys. Founders is a entrepreneurship organization at U of I. We sort of hope to foster a community of innovation in entrepreneurship here, and we're very excited to give this presentation to you guys about pitching your product.
Awesome. And I am Michael Sun. I am the Vice President of Founders. Like Davis said, we're all about startups. So if y'all ever build your own startup, definitely go to us first. We have the resources to help you take it to success.
Hey everyone, my name is Mahan. I'm the President of Founders and excited to share our tips with you guys. So just quick overview again, like Davis said, we host a lot of events and support startups on campus. So sure to check us out on our website, founders.illinois.edu, and Instagram at Illinois Founders, and feel free to reach us out via email if you have any questions or follow-ups after this presentation.
Awesome. So without further ado, why don't we go over all the things that we're going to cover today. You guys came here because you'll want to learn about how to pitch. And these are the 6 things that we're going to talk about today. First, we're going to talk about the quintessential elevator pitch. Short and sweet, but also very important. The 1-sentence elevator pitch is often hard to master, but we're going to give you the tools and the advice necessary to build a really good one. Next, we're going to build a story around your product, right? Your product is not just a piece of technology, it's a narrative, and you want to be able to create a narrative around your product that your audience can follow so they can better empathize with it. Next, we're going to talk a little bit more technical, paint the landscape around your product, talk about the industry that your product is in, who are your other competitors, what infrastructure do you require for your product, and yeah, go over who else is in the industry that your product falls into.
Yeah, and then also get into how you're actually going to show off your product, what business plan considerations you should keep in mind, and what the overall vision is and how to keep that intact as you grow.
Yes, the slides will be shared later. So don't worry if you miss something, this will be made available to you later. All right, so let's just start with the elevator pitch. Every pitch should have one, but how do you create actually a good one, right? 1 sentence it's hard to contain everything into 1 sentence. Next slide, please. So first, you want to talk about, who is your product actually serving? The core demographic of your product is important to describe so that your target audience can empathize with that demographic. Chances are your audience is not going to be exactly your target demographic. So it's important to include traits like age, gender, behaviors, and tendencies so they get an understanding of who your product actually serves. Next, one of the most important parts, your UVP or unique value proposition, right? Talk about what makes your product special. Talk about what are the key aspects of your product and what really makes it stand out compared to everyone else. And finally, this should go without saying, but make sure elevator pitch is brief, should be no more than 1 or 2 sentences. And this can be tough because it's hard to contain a lot of ideas in 1 sentence, but really good elevator pitches will encapsulate the core elements of your product in just that 1 short sentence. So yeah, why don't we just take a look at 2 elevator pitches. One is really good, one is pretty bad, and I'm pretty sure y'all will be able to tell which one is which. So we're going to use Uber as an example. The first one, my company is Uber. We make city travel convenient by giving everyone a personal driver. So this elevator pitch is very intuitive. In just 1 sentence, it encapsulates the entire idea of what Uber is, how it's useful, and how everyone uses it. The problem is very clear. City travel sucks and it's inconvenient. And the solution is also very clear. Everyone gets a personal driver. Obviously, this misses some of the nuance with how Uber actually works, but the essence of the idea is captured here, and it's universally understandable by everyone. The next one, though, my company is Uber. We're a P2P marketplace that uses GPS mobile app to satisfy demand for cabs in real time. This uses a ton of buzzwords, and it doesn't capture at all the idea of what Uber does. It talks more about the technology and the implementation rather than talking about the problem. So you're left thinking about, what does Uber even do, right? So there's not much clarity on the solution. So the first one is obviously the way you want to go with a elevator pitch: short, sweet, and concise. And don't worry about getting too much about the technology into your elevator pitch. Next slide. So when you're crafting your elevator pitch, make sure that it follows this very simple but concise structure. Hi, my product is blank. We're aimed at solving this problem with this solution. Short and sweet, and don't go too much into the weeds about the technology. Next. And yeah, like we just talked about, your pitch is more than just a short sentence, right? It's important to build a narrative around your product so it's easier to follow. So this is the part where we would usually tell you to kind of go out and do your customer discovery and talk to your customers and identify your niche. Next slide, please, by the way. And go out and talk to people, get feedback, do interviews. We know y'all have been hacking away for 40 hours already, so don't worry about this part. It's not important to include in your pitch right now. What is important though, next slide, is, like I said, creating a narrative around your product. And the first step to that is, again, talking about the core demographic of who your product actually serves. Go more into depth about what problem they have and why they have this problem. It's also important to cite specific facts and figures to lend some credibility to what you're talking about. And then next, introduce your solution. Talk about why your product actually solves the problem that you just mentioned, right? Talk about how your product has a unique value proposition compared to the rest of the competitors. And most importantly, stress how your product, it has a big impact on your customers' lives. Talk about why it's not just going to be an app that sits in like the back of your phone that someone like forgot to delete. Next. And then finally, paint the competitive landscape. This is important so that your audience will understand the position of your product in the industry that you're trying to target. Next slide. So it's easy to fall into the rabbit hole of talking about just your product and what makes your product special. But it's also important to talk about what your product shares with your competitors. Talk about what common features you have, who's already using the competitor's product. This will help your audience understand where your product falls within the market that you're trying to capture. Obviously, though, you want to talk about what makes the competitors fall short. Why are they not capturing the impact that you're trying to capture with your product? Talk about what features they lack and why customers are not satisfied with the current competition. And finally, stress your unique value proposition. This is the part where you get to brag. So don't be afraid to talk about what makes your product special. Really talk about what makes your product special, what makes your product unique compared to the competitors, and how it fills an existing void. Next slide.
So now we get into actually showing your product off. And there's a few things to keep in mind. First thing, if you can make it live, make it live. Do a live demo or at least an explainer video that people can actually see how your product works and what the function is. The best way, now we talked about storytelling earlier. So the best way to do this is also through a story. Create this ideal user, create this fake persona, and walk the audience through what they're actually using your product for, why they're using it, what value they get out of it, and how they actually go through the steps to use your product. Now, this might be a little different depending on what your product is, how you use it, but make sure you create a story around it and actually go through that person using your idea. And the last thing, control the tempo. Make sure you don't go through it too fast, because a lot of times you're very familiar with your idea, the technology behind it, but you want to be able to explain it clearly so someone else that has no prior knowledge can actually understand what your product is. So make sure it's clear, but also don't get too caught up in the details of the tech, because that's not the idea of this presentation or the pitch. It's to give other people a basic overview of your idea or product. Now, the business plan is something that you should really consider thinking about if you decide to pursue this idea. It's not something you have to worry about right now, but if you were to pursue this, make sure you create something called a BMC, or a business model canvas. It'll highlight every aspect of your business and lay it out clearly for you. Now, some of those ideas are pricing your product. So the revenue streams, the costs associated with that, which will then tell you how much capital you need to actually get this off the ground, how you grow it, what milestones there are, and give you an idea of how you actually want to structure it as a business. A lot of this stuff will get caught up in your vision. So what is the reason behind why are you creating this? What's driving you? What's the motivation? If you have that down, you can really create a clear long-term plan. So you want to know what you need to do now and how that can help you accomplish your long-term goals. So what milestones do you have? What goals do you need to achieve? And what roadblocks are there? So with those roadblocks, you need to come up with resources and ways to tackle them. So make sure you come up with what you need to actually succeed at your idea. Now, that's another thing. How do you define success? A lot of times people just say revenue or downloads, but it might not be the best way to define your success depending on your idea. So make sure you come up with key performance indicators, key metrics, whatever you can to quantify your success and what success means to your specific idea. And again, keep your vision consistent with your long-term plan. So you can easily communicate, this is what the vision is for the idea, and this is how it comes into play in each aspect of our 5-year plan. Again, something you don't have to consider right now, but in the future, scaling, make sure you listen to your customers, your users, your team. All of that will help improve the quality and usefulness of your idea. A lot of times founders get caught up in they get attached to their idea, so they don't really want to listen to feedback, but make sure you listen to the people that are actually going to be using your product so you can actually make adjustments to better suit them. Now, let's take a step back and do some really overview of presentation tips. First thing, be confident. You are the only one that knows about your product. You're the only one that has the authority to speak on your idea. So as long as you present stuff confidently, that'll go a long way. Even if the content is there, regardless of what the content is, confidence will go a long way in how you present and how the audience receives your presentation. Second thing is practice. Even if you practice as much as you can, and if you do want to boost your confidence a little, try practicing without a presentation or any other resources. So if something does go wrong with your presentation, if technology doesn't work out, you still know that you can successfully pitch your idea without the use of a presentation. So make sure you practice as much as you can, and if you can, do it without a presentation. The presentation will obviously add more stuff to the presentation, but it's okay if something goes wrong, you'll be prepared. The last thing, and one of the most important things, is actually answering the questions. A lot of times people will walk around the answer. They won't answer the question at all. And that's usually due to the fact that they don't have an answer. So it's okay to not know the answer to a question. Just own up to that and make sure you actually say that I don't know and I'll follow up with you. Then actually do follow up after the pitch. So it's okay to not know and own up to that if you don't, and answer the questions to the best of your ability.
Awesome. So that kind of wraps up our how to pitch presentation. This is kind of the table of contents that we went through, and again, these slides will be made available to you. So feel free to go back and review it. This is to help you prep for the Shark Tank event that's happening at 6, I believe. So yeah, thank you all for coming. Next slide. Again, feel free to contact us at our website, founders@illinois.edu, our Instagram, Illinois Founders, or our email, team@founders@illinois.edu. And if you ever want to take your product to the next level and make it a startup, definitely contact us. We have the resources, we have the connections to help you out.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining us. And huge thanks to the Founders team for this amazing workshop. For attendees, stay tuned for more events today, and don't forget to enter the event code, which I put in the chat a little bit earlier. Yeah, thanks so much for coming.